Okay, perfect. So I got it live. And then I feel like there's someone else here, T, but. And I'll make sure the text message went out to everyone. Okay, perfect. All right, just a moment. I'm going to send out another text because I know I sent out. Were you confused by the text that I sent you? That I sent the mass text? I know the first link didn't work and then I had to resend it.
No, works fine.
Okay, perfect.
I think, hold on, let me try it. Yeah, it works fine.
I won't send another text then. Hey, Gabriella.
Hey, Mare. How's it going?
Pretty good. We just have Mahalene about to give her presentation, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Is Ermaeus also going to give his presentation?
Oh, no, he ended up, he wasn't available. So,
Oh, okay.
and Gabriella, you found this meeting through the text, right? And then you just signed on?
Yeah, the text has been helpful because it is pretty simple. And then also I can share it with people. So I pinged a couple people today about it.
Oh, okay, because the first text, the Zoom link didn't work. I accidentally sent the wrong link. And so I sent another one. So just want to make sure you got the right link.
Oh, yeah, I clicked the link that I got today.
Okay. Well, I sent 2 texts today.
I just clicked whatever came last.
Okay, perfect. All right, but we might start and then just have this as a live recording.
Sure.
But we did have about 15 RSVPs, so.
I know it's hard with competing events in the evening, so not a problem.
Okay, great. Well, let's start the presentation. Thank you again for your time, Mahalene. I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and then we'll get to the slides. And then I know you said you were going to send out a leave behind for folks that did register for the event. So
yeah,
I'll leave it to you.
Okay, sounds good. So actually, let me do my share screen here because that'll have my intro slide. And All right. Oh, I don't need subtitles. Okay, can everyone see this okay?
Yep, can see
Okay,
it.
cool. All right, well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you to Mary and the team for giving me the opportunities to speak with all of you tonight. What I'm going to be talking about are the 5 must-haves to build your wealth. And when it comes to generational wealth, that's something that we'll talk about as well. So first, I wanted to start off with just introducing myself. And the team. So I am Mahalene Dulay. I'm the founder and wealth advisor of a financial planning and investment management firm out here in San Diego, California, called Vista Del Mar Wealth Management. And I started my career as a wealth advisor in 2007, which has been an interesting time because that was literally just before the 2008 real estate crash. So learning a lot of new things as a new advisor, talking with clients about their money. It's definitely an interesting time for sure. But I was with a large company for about 10 years or so. And then in 2018, I decided to take my leap of faith and open up my own financial planning firm to be able to give me the opportunity and the platform to really envision a space for women, especially for women investors of color, when it comes to building and preserving their wealth. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. All right, and then let me introduce you here to my team member, Amanda, who, I mean, obviously is not here physically, but she is our office administrator, so handles a lot of the back office work for the team. And then, hold on a second, tech difficulties. Okay, hopefully you can still.
And Mahalene, I think it's on presentation mode. I don't know if that's on purpose, but just wanted you to know.
Oh, okay.
It's presentation mode.
Here. How do I, is it this one? No. Shows how much I know about technology. How do I get it out of presentation mode? Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second.
Maybe the hide the presenter view. Did you want to try that one? The where you were at, where you were toggling, it says hide presenter view.
Oh, there we go. Ah,
okay, perfect.
Fantastic. Okay, so hence why I'm in finance, not technology, but you would think by now I understand PowerPoint a little bit better. But anyway, so introducing the team, I talked about myself. I have my team member, office administrator, Amanda. She holds down the fort for internal operations. And then of course, can't forget one of my favorite team members, Guinness, my dog, who is named after my favorite dark bear. He is our chief executive mascot. He does from time to time hop into our meetings. But yes, he is my doggo. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So when we talk about the pillars or the foundation of building your wealth, one of the things that's really important in having the conversation is always starting and ending with your why. And, you know, why is that important? So when you talk about your why, it very much brings the plan and your vision when it comes to your money and wealth alive. Just like when you are taking a trip or where you're going somewhere, usually you have an end destination or somewhere in mind. And so to be able to get to that destination, we need to have that in place before we can create the roadmap to get there. So when you start and end with your why, the first thing that you want to think about is, why is money so important to you and your family? In the type of planning that we do, we take on a holistic, comprehensive approach, and it's very goal-centered, meaning we spend a lot of time with our clients talking about their goals and why it's important to them. And I find that when it comes to money, the relationship that people have with money also dictates the important decisions that we make when it comes to money. So for example, if we've had bad experiences or bad relationship with money, whether it's something from growing up, whether it's during like a transition period, maybe the way that our parents or grandparents had talked about money, the way that they showed money, that can really reflect on the decisions, again, that we make now, and also for future generations to come, on how building wealth is, is going to come about. So when you start and end with your why, you also want to think about, like, what kind of life do you envision for yourself? And I think it's really important to dream big. When it comes to financial planning, I mean, there are definitely a lot of strategies that will be put in place to get there. But I think, again, just having the idea of what you want for yourself and for your family, and ultimately, at the end of it all, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, is incredibly important too when we start talking about generational wealth. So, all right. So the first thing, or the first step, first foundation of the pillars, is knowing your flow. And when we talk about knowing your flow, this also means knowing your cash flow. So the cash flow is going to be has several different parts, if you will. First is what comes in, so your cash inflows, and then what goes out, cash outflows. Now, your cash inflows are going to be your different sources of income stream, whether that's your salary, your 9-to-5 job, whether it's a side hustle, a combination of all of them. Maybe you have passive income through rentals, and we'll talk about some of this here in a bit. But understanding and knowing what comes in is really important when it comes to building your wealth. What I'll talk about a little bit more, the difference between saving and investing, and why just saving is not going to help build your wealth in the long term. But again, a big part of that is understanding the income, or the cash that comes in. Now, I put here why budgets are like diets. So if you've ever tried a diet before, or a fad, we know that diets, one, means that you have to be very disciplined. And then two is that it really creates a big, I think, like a scarcity mindset. So a lot of times diets may not always work. And when we talk about budgets, the way that we talk about it is that it's more than just cutting things out. It's looking at where are the opportunities that we can increase your income. So going back to the relationship that we have with money, in understanding that money is more than just, okay, what expenses can I cut out? We want to look at ways that you can increase your cash flow and increase the flow that comes in, so that we can create more opportunities to save, to invest, and to expand your portfolio that way. Understanding your cash flow, another part that's really important is saving for your OB fund, or your OSH fund. AKA, this is your emergency fund or your rainy day fund. Now, typically you want to have the general idea is that you want to have at least 3 to 6 months worth of total monthly expenses in your OSH fund. So in this emergency fund, this is where you're going to have things in cash holdings. These are going to be vehicles like money markets, CDs, traditional savings, typically ones that you would find at the bank. Now, the reason why that these types of vehicles are great for your OS fund is that they are liquid. So it's something that you can access very easily. It's not going to fluctuate. The downside is that when it comes to the interest and how much you earn on that, it's very little. However, having your OS fund is incredibly important for several different reasons. One main reason, like I talked about, is having emergencies. Life happens, stuff happens, and you want to make sure that you have something available there to take care of those expenses. For some of you that are homeowners, I mean, that with home ownership, there are things that you have to think about outside of just making your home feel homey. I mean, overall maintenance, if let's say you are really busy and aren't able to create time for some of the things just for the regular upkeep, that's something that you want to be able to have readily available. But the other reason why that your OS fund is incredibly important is because, going back to the idea of opportunities, that's exactly what it can create. Let's say if you're somebody who aside from what's going on with COVID now, but let's say that you're somebody that's been thinking about wanting to transition from your 9-to-5 to full-on entrepreneur, full-on business mode. Or let's say that, you've been in your career, your job for a while, and you're just not feeling the passion and the, you know, the work and what you're doing, and you want to be able to maybe take a break, maybe if it's just a month or two, just to kind of figure things out. Your OS fund is a really great way for you to have the opportunity to do that, because it creates this means, a bridge for that transition period. So it's something that I think is very much overlooked. And a lot of people think like, okay, well, if I put my money in the bank, it's not going to grow. Well, you're right. But again, going back to creating opportunities for yourself, this OS fund is going to set the foundation for where you need to be for building your wealth. I talked about generally you want 3 to 6 months worth of total monthly expenses, but as we've seen with COVID, life happens. And so typically what I've been suggesting for many clients is looking at bare bones minimum, at least 6 to 9 months worth of total monthly expenses. And then if you're a business owner, looking at least a year's to possibly even 18 months worth of total monthly expenses. So the second pillar of building your wealth is thinking about this idea of, are you building on a house of cards? And this is mostly the conversation when it comes to different types of insurances. Now, specifically for this one, I'm going to start with life insurance. I'll talk a little bit about why, and then some other insurances that you should consider, whether you are, again, an employee of a company, or even if you're a business owner. So when should you get life insurance? That's a question I always get. And when it comes to life insurance, there are main considerations that life insurance companies look at to determine your eligibility for getting life insurance. First is your age. So the younger that you are, typically the healthier you are. And with that, with age and health, those two factors are one of the main considerations for eligibility for life insurance. So the younger that you get your life insurance, then the better it is for you in the long term, because generally speaking, your premium should be lower when you get it when you're younger. Other reasons why when you should get life insurance, when changes happen. If you incur debt, whether it's student loans, maybe you got a house, maybe you purchased a car, or you took out a personal loan. Life insurance is a great way to be able to take care of debt and have their slate wiped clean for your family members, so that they don't have to take that on upon your passing. Other reasons for getting life insurance for those of you that are business owners, let's say if you take out a business loan, maybe if you opened up a business with a partner or several partners, there are ways to be able to create a succession plan through life insurance, where it creates different buyouts, so what we call like buy-sell agreements. That's one way to be able to strategize, knowing that your time and money that you put into the business is not going to completely go away or go by the wayside, and that your family can get paid out, if you will, for your fair share into the business. When it comes to the difference between term and cash value life insurance, generally speaking, term insurance is designed for a temporary period of time. So the most common ones that you'll find will be 10, 20, 30 years. For those of you that are an employee, most companies offer what's called group term coverage. That group term coverage is like an umbrella coverage for the employees, and it's a base coverage so long as you're working there with the employer. And then once you leave that employer, then that base coverage typically goes away. But specifically, when you talk about term insurance, again, it's a temporary type of insurance for a period of time. And term insurance gives you the largest amount of death benefit coverage for the least amount of cost. Now, when we talk about term insurance, some of the reasons why you'd want to consider term insurance, let's say if you have a mortgage, again, if you have outstanding debt, for those of you that may have a partner or a spouse where you're dependent on income, that is something that you want to consider for term insurance to replace income over a period of time. If you have dependents or kids or somebody else that you're looking after, and want to make sure that you have a peace of mind knowing that they're financially taken care of, term insurance is a great way to be able to help fund those goals. Now, cash value life insurance is it's kind of like a hybrid insurance, if you will. So cash value life insurance has the death benefit or life insurance component, which I'll come back to here in just a bit, but it has the death benefit component of life insurance. And then it has this cash value where you have the ability to build this cash value like a living benefit. So the best way to describe the difference between term and cash value insurance is like a home. Term in a lot of ways is like renting the policy, if you will. You pay into the premium, you pay your premiums into the plan for the time that you need it. And then once it's done, it served its purpose, and it's a done deal from there. Some people, or I should say most people, tend to outlive their term insurance. And so that's where cash value life insurance plans can be helpful. So in using the house analogy, cash value is like the equity that you build up in your life insurance. And again, it's something that you can use while you're alive to help fund for retirement, possibly for larger expenses. I'm not going to get into the details of how exactly that works. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can definitely reach out to me. But the main purpose of life insurance and why it's important for most people, even when you don't think you need it, is that life insurance creates, again, I'm going to go back to this theme of opportunity. So I'll give you several examples. If you are, most people again think about life insurance like, okay, if I have a partner, if I'm married, if I have kids in a house, those are cases for life insurance, hands down. Absolutely, you want to make sure that your assets and the people that you love are protected. Let's say if you are a single individual who, again, doesn't have kids, maybe you're not married and don't have a partner. If you have a house, again, we talked about a business, even if you have some debt, those are reasons or cases for considering life insurance. The other thing too, when I talk about opportunity, is that life insurance is a fantastic way and is one of the solid foundations for creating generational wealth for future generations to come. Even if you're in a situation where you don't have dependents, maybe you don't necessarily want to leave money to family per se, again, life insurance creates opportunity. So that means that through particular strategies, you can use the life insurance proceeds to help fund charities or organizations that are important to you. You can create scholarships for communities of color. You can do so many things and help fund a lot of things that you're passionate about through life insurance. And so when we talked about legacy and your why, this is one of the reasons why life insurance is incredibly important, even when you don't think you quote unquote need it. Other insurances that you should consider, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just kind of keep it top of mind. Disability insurance. So in the event that you physically cannot work, then disability insurance is a great way to supplement income. Looking at things like long-term care insurance. So people are living longer and longer these days. And for my clients that are in retirement right now, the biggest concern and challenge that they have is having to deal with medical costs, and just the thought of when they get to their later years of golden retirement age, what does that mean when it comes to taking care of them? So when you have long-term care insurance, that's a way to be able to help supplement and protect the assets. So then that way, when you're in those later years of retirement and need care, you can have that in place. Other types of insurances, if you are a business, so obviously business insurance, there is cybersecurity. We just talked about buy-sell agreements, so different types of strategies for that. But when I talk about the idea of building on a house of cards, is that most people, when they think about building their wealth, they think automatically about investing, they think about saving, they think about real estate. You can build everything that you want when it comes to your assets, but if there's nothing there to protect it, then again, you're building on a house of cards and it could be completely washed away. So everything that you've worked hard and built for could be gone in an instant when you don't have the proper defensive strategies, if you will. So that brings us to our third pillar, why just saving doesn't build wealth. I talked about earlier that there's a difference, a really stark difference actually, between saving versus investing. And so what is that difference? When you think about saving again, typically is with the idea of just simply putting money away. But when you talk about investing, investing means that you're not just putting money away, but you're finding strategies to have your money work for you. And so investing really takes a lot more strategies. It's not just, okay, how much should I put away, but where should I put it? And how does that impact my, my goals? What are the potential tax implications of where I'm investing? When it comes to succession planning or building a legacy, what does that mean when I transfer my wealth? So just saving, if you put something, again, in just short-term accounts like a bank savings, CDs, money markets, it's really not going to get you anywhere when it comes to truly building your wealth, because the major downside we talked about earlier is little growth potential. And when we talk about investing for the long term and building your wealth, one of the things that we have to take into consideration outside of longevity is inflation. So I don't know any of you who, who've gotten gas lately or have been driving around, but gas prices are almost $5. And a friend of mine said that in LA a few weeks ago that it was almost $6 a gallon. And that is pretty ridiculous. So when you think about that, investing is a way to have a potential of growth on your wealth, and then also helps to outpace inflation in the long term. A question I always get is, how do I get started with investing? So first and foremost, again, it comes back to your goals. What are you investing towards? Like what are the goals that you're investing or working towards? So without having those goals, we're not able to build a roadmap. And then I talked about earlier that the first, one of the first two pillars to consider is knowing your cash flow. So making sure that you have your OS fund, and then considering, again, your life insurances. Now, it's not saying that you need to get your insurances before you start investing. A comprehensive financial plan, and when it's done the right way, can simultaneously have a lot of different moving pieces going at the same time. But when it comes to getting started, again, understanding your cash flow. So you want to make sure that you have a positive cash flow. You have your OS fund. And then also you want to understand your risk tolerance. Investing means that it comes with risk. And so when it comes to your risk, you want to be able to understand, like, what is your attitude or your feeling when it comes to seeing how your accounts are doing in the market? Are you one who gets anxiety when you open your statements and you see, okay, account values are down? Do you invest by emotion or do you invest by strategy? So your risk tolerance is incredibly important when it comes to investing, because that determines not only your not only your willingness to take on risk, but we also want to look at your ability to take on risk. The other part of investing is your time horizon. So when do you need this money? Is it something that you're going to need in the next 6 months to a year? Is it something for maybe 20, 30 years down the road, or maybe somewhere in between? But your time horizon is also incredibly important in terms of the investing part, because that's going to dictate what types of investment vehicles that you should be investing in. So let's talk about compound interest and the idea that patience is key. So when it comes to building wealth, most people don't either have the time or even, just the know-how or resources to do day trading. And I will tell you, just from my experience, day trading it can be really hard and really stressful. So the way that we look at holistic planning is that we do look at short-term goals and kind of the intermediate goals, but just also understanding that patience is key. So when you talk about the power of compound interest, so this is looking at somebody who started saving or investing, if you will, at 25 versus 35. Assuming that this person starts saving $500 a month, we just use an annual compound interest rate of 5%. If somebody started saving at 25, so 10 years earlier than somebody saving at 35, you can see the difference of the compound interest. So again, when it comes to investing and investing appropriately based on your time horizon, your risk, the type of investment vehicles, and ultimately your goals, investing is going to help build your wealth. But the sooner that you start doing it, then the better it is for you in the long term. When it comes to, again, creating opportunity, those that set the foundation for smart and strategic money habits early on are going to reap the longer term benefits of investing. And this might even give you the opportunity to maybe retire earlier, or maybe even the opportunity to buy that investment home, or even your first home that you're looking at. But saving early on is incredibly important. And when it comes to this idea of generational wealth, especially for communities of color, is not just about what's on paper. It's not just about dollar amount. It's about the knowledge that we have to be able to pass down to our future generations, so that way they can make smart money decisions. And create this platform of financial literacy where it starts early on. And that way, again, we continue on with the idea of generational wealth for years to come. Speaking of which, the fourth pillar here is looking at your legacy and generational wealth as a whole. Now, we talked about your your cash flow and your OS fund. We talked about different types of insurances, so you're not building on a house of cards. And we talked about the importance of investing, as well as compound interest. So now we want to talk about the actual protecting of everything that you have. The first point that I want to talk about is what's called a will and a trust. So this is just very, very basic estate planning terms here. When it comes to a will and a trust, these are written documents that are put in place to be able to protect your assets, and then also to state what your wishes and intentions are in the event that you are not able to do so for yourself. And it does not mean this happens when you pass away. Let's say, like, if you get into an accident and you fall into a coma, or you lose the capabilities because of a terminal illness, or whatever the case is, to be able to make important financial and just life decisions. A will and a trust is going to help facilitate that. Now, a will is a very basic plan to set what your intentions are. However, a will does not protect you from probate. In short, probate is different from each state, but it's this like purgatory process, if you will. Somebody who either has a will and a home, or maybe, let's say, if they don't have a will or a trust at all, assets can go through this process of probate. It can take 18 months, sometimes longer. The cost of it can be quite costly. I mean, I've partner with estate planning attorneys, and they've told me, sometimes the expenses are $20,000 or more, if that. And so when you talk about the process of probate, having something like a trust would be important to help bypass that. So a trust works as a separate entity. It is a more extensive document, if you will. Like a will can state what your intentions are, but a trust is something that can help, that can be funded. So let's say for charities, for younger dependents, but it's something that can help bypass the process of probate, help protect your assets and your home. So which one do you need? If you are an individual and you don't have a home, then you at least want to have a will. And in that will, you have a power of attorney, and you have an advanced healthcare directive. If you are a homeowner, if you have multiple assets, and you have, and if you have dependents or children, you want to have a trust in place. So typically a trust is going to be reserved for those that are, again, that have a home. So if you don't have a home, a will is what I would still recommend to at least get. There are ways where you could do it by yourself, but when it comes to, I always joke around saying, when it comes to the three things that makes me, that kind of scares me in life: taxes and taxes with the IRS, anything that has to do with legal stuff, and then sometimes my mom when she's in a bad mood. So these are the things that you want to make sure is done professionally and through expert estate planning attorneys to help you determine which one is the best route for you. So when it comes to generational wealth, well, what is it? I mean, just as it sounds, it's wealth not only from a monetary standpoint, but also from a knowledge standpoint that you would pass down for generations and years to come. And it's incredibly important, especially for communities of color. And this is something that I think we've seen a lot more so over the last, last year and a half, is that there is still a really big disparity and a really big wealth gap between communities of color and non-communities of color. Communities of color and not. And so when it comes to the generational wealth and generational wealth aspect, again, having the financial literacy, having these different pieces in place and creating opportunity for generations to come is going to be incredibly important. And so, just like this next point here, money is power. And again, it creates opportunity. So when you talk about your legacy and generational wealth, I think it's also important to look beyond just what you have as an individual or even just for your family, but you want to make sure that part of the generational wealth is also supporting local BIPOC and LGBTQA plus businesses. Especially small businesses and small businesses of color, there is a huge impact with COVID within the last year. And so I think really standing behind, and supporting our communities in this way is also going to help generational wealth. When you support small businesses, you're not just supporting the business, you're supporting their dreams, their families, and again, their passions for wanting to make a difference in the world. And then last thing here, again, generational wealth is more than just money. So that's exactly the reason why I talked about habits, your mindset, and even your experiences matter. So for example, the way that we talk to each other about money, part of the reason why that I left my old firm to start my new one is that in creating a platform for women to talk about money and to talk about career and to know that it's not just that it's not just the boys club that can talk about it, but being able to demystify the idea of money. Money is part of survival, but again, it creates opportunity. And we as a community, as a whole, really need to create better experiences. And I think a lot of that too just comes with education in financial literacy. So the last point that I wanted to talk about here when it comes to building your wealth is the idea of, well, do you do it yourself or do you hire someone? So let's talk about, some of the differences between fee-based and fee-only. And this might be something, I know this is something that had come up with a couple of conversations I had with Mary and some other people. But when it comes to, one thing I should say first is that when you hire somebody, regardless of whether they're fee-based, fee-only, if they have, the CFP designation, I firmly believe that all financial professionals should put their clients' interests first. Now, again, that is something that should be happening. Is it always happening? Not always, unfortunately. And so when it comes to, hiring somebody and, having them be part of your wealth journey, first thing is understanding how the fees work. So a fee-based is basically an advisor or a financial professional who has also receives commissions for particular products. So they have several different platforms. They have what's called advisory or advisory, where they get like a percentage off of assets under advisement or assets under management. And if, let's say, they have other types of mutual funds or fund families they work with, then they also receive commissions. A fee-only type of advisor or firm, what they do is they only have a percentage based off of the total value of your portfolio. And they don't have any commission-based type products, if you will, within their platform. Now, when it comes to this concept or this idea of fiduciary responsibility, again, from myself as an advisor who is fully licensed in the investment management side, I do have a fiduciary responsibility. to be able to make sure that I put clients' best interest first. And that is, again, not only a commonsensical thing, I would think, for most advisors, but it's just the right thing to do and the most ethical thing to do. So that's really the difference between fee-based and fee-only. You might come across other types of platforms like robo-advisors. That's kind of a newer thing. Robo-advisors, they're usually lower cost platforms. And what they do is they use the power of AI and technology to create portfolios for clients for a very minimal cost. Now, the downside to robo-advisors is that typically, because it is AI-based, you might not necessarily get like the personalized or customized strategies that you would get from a financial professional, like an advisor or a CFP. So that's just, again, something to consider. If you're somebody who's wanting to DIY or do some of the investing yourself, there are tons of resources out there that you can take a look at for building your knowledge and knowing where to go. Some lower cost options are what we call no load funds. So those are going to be brokerage firms like Vanguard, Fidelity. If you're somebody who's looking to do, individual stock portfolios, you can look at things like E-Trade or Ameritrade. Fidelity also has platforms like that as well. So there are a lot of different avenues that you can go when it comes to DIY. That, again, if you have the time, the patience, and as well as the knowledge and the resources, and you feel mostly just confident in doing on your own, you can really save yourself, some money there. I would say most people, when we talk about hiring somebody like myself, it's beyond just the investing and building your portfolio. It's also about the strategies. So, for example, I talked about all these different pieces of a plan, and you can see that all of them work together and are integrated for a holistic financial picture. And so if one area of your plan may be lacking or there is a gap, that could affect something else. And so having a financial professional look at it from a holistic standpoint, I think, is incredibly valuable. Especially if you need more clarity or just not really sure where to go. So a few things here to take away from this slide. 3 questions to ask yourself as a starting point. First and foremost is one, how often do you review your portfolio? So whether you, again, do things on your own, maybe you're for somebody that's an employee, it has a 401k plan. Most 401k providers most 401k providers and plans are very DIY in itself. So you basically, choose the funds based off of maybe some questions, and then you go from there. But first question is, how often do you review and rebalance your portfolio? The second question that you want to ask yourself is, how much time are you spending on that? So it's very similar to the first question, but, what's valuable to you when it comes to your time? I mean, time is money. And for somebody like myself who is licensed and has gone through the experience and continuing education, it's a lot of time, spent in understanding how investment strategies and how building your plan works. So I think time is the second question to ask. And then the third question to ask yourself as a starting point is, how confident are you in what you're doing? And I don't mean that in a demeaning way at all, but I think for a lot of people is that, they might get jazzed about doing some things on their own, and then realizing, okay, well, maybe because there's so much information, or because not knowing where to start, or maybe things are changing in your life. How confident are you in being able to make sure that your financial plan aligns with your goals and your roadmap throughout your journey? So that's 3 questions to ask as a starting point. Now, you can also do a hybrid where maybe some things you can do on your own and maybe hire somebody for just strategic planning. One thing I really like about what we do is that we do have platforms available where some of my clients, there are accounts that they want to continue to do on their own, and that's totally fine. And within our platforms, part of the membership that they have is that they can have access to some of the resources and ask me questions during our meetings to be able to say, okay, is what I'm doing on my own, is it working out? Do I need any pointers, etc.? And then some of the things that maybe they're not fully confident on, then that's where we shine with our expertise. The 3 questions that you should ask a financial advisor if you're considering hiring somebody, whether again it's in conjunction with your DIY or just hiring somebody completely, is 1, you want to ask about their fees. Are they fee-based? Are they fee only? How do they get paid? And again, I think that's important in just understanding how the fees overall works, because fees will impact your overall growth potential, but you also have to look at the opportunity cost in terms of, okay, if I'm going to be paying somebody for these strategies and helping with the planning, I want to make sure that I'm receiving the value in what I'm paying for. So asking a financial advisor about their fees. The other thing I would ask a financial advisor, a financial professional, are what is their approach when it comes to planning. So like I mentioned, I take on more of a holistic financial planning approach. So I literally look at every single piece of money movement and a person's financial plan. Some advisors look at solely just, not advisors, but some financial professionals look solely at just life insurance or just insurance type products. Some look at, again, like we talked about, fee only. Some look at managed portfolios. Some financial professionals do a combination of different things. So I think it's important to also understand their approach when it comes to planning, and does it align with your goals, which then ties very closely to the last question. In asking a financial professional when you're considering hiring somebody is what are the expectations that you have that you have of me. So I'm very clear in working with my clients and saying that it's a two-way relationship. I understand that everybody's life's busy, but part of my expectation is that if I'm going to give strategies or recommendations, I want my clients to be able to be proactive and meet me at least halfway to get that done. So at the end of the day, when it comes to choosing the right financial professional for you, or even DIYing it, but choosing the right financial professional is understanding the relationship that you're going to have with that person. That person hopefully should be there with you for the long term, and not just working with you, but your family. And in case you're not here anymore, if you pass away, is that person going to be there for your family and future generations to come as well? Okay, so talked about those different questions here. And approach to money management, what are the fees and the scope of services? And then, so let's talk about the key takeaways. So everything I talked about, again, there's so much information when it comes to money management and investing. But if I were to summarize it into 3 key words, you want to make sure that you understand how to make money, how to grow your money, and then ultimately how to protect your money. So again, encapsulating this idea of a holistic financial plan, those are the 3 main things that you want to think about. The second key takeaway is building generational wealth through not just money, but also through knowledge. Things like, understanding the importance of financial literacy, the way that we create money habits for our families, even if you're somebody who doesn't have a child or a dependent, is how do you talk about money with your colleagues, with your friends? How do you talk about money with your partner? I think, the conversation about money needs to be had. It needs to be open. It needs to be honest. And a lot of it starts with, again, understanding how your relationship with money works, and then how that's going to translate in the decisions that you make. And then last but not least, consulting with a wealth advisor like myself to understand what best fits your situation. So that brings me to my next point here. Here is my fun little photo shoot that I did last year. But with our team, The first step is scheduling a discovery call. Because I'm really big on relationships and especially big on long-term relationships, really the first thing is just finding out if we're the right fit for you. I've never been on Tinder before, and I think the swipe right is yes, that means it's good to go, and swipe left is no. It could be wrong, but I mean, the discovery call is basically that. Give us a chance to be able to talk to each other. And if it's not a good fit, then that's fine. Hopefully you can walk away at least today with knowing, and from the discovery call of knowing what next steps might be best for you. And if it is a great fit, then fantastic. We can talk about what the next steps might look like from there after the call. So for all of you that registered for the event, today, and whether you're able to make it on here or not, we do have a financial wellness checkup checklist, and try to say that 3 times fast, but we do have a checklist, and it basically summarizes a lot of what we talked about. And it's really just an understanding of your confidence level, like how confident do you feel in what you're doing? And if there are still some gaps in what you're doing, maybe you even just need a second pair of eyes, then that is a really great way to say, okay, a really great indication to schedule a discovery call, and we can talk more about where to go from there. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook to stay in touch. And here is our contact info. So again, for all registrants, we'll make sure to send this out to you as well, along with the checklist that we have. And of course, I have to send my disclosures out because that is what compliance needs from us. So thank you everyone for listening in, and I will hand it back over to Mary.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. So this is going to be the portion of Q&A. Anyone have any questions for Mahalene? I could kick it off as well, but just wanted to leave it open real quick.
Mahalene, you talked a lot about like life insurance, which when I think about investment, until recently, I never really considered it. I was watching a TikTok and they were talking about how you could, pull out money from the life insurance, and then it's like a loan to yourself, and then it has compound interest. So I thought that was intriguing. So when you work with your clients, is that something that you help them with, like, or do you refer them to a life insurance person? And even for the trust, like, do you refer people out, or how does it work?
Yeah, so when it comes to the life insurance side, that is something that I do for my clients. So I am licensed in several states when it comes to the life insurance plan. But again, when I talk about like the holistic part of the picture, I do have the conversation about life insurance, and we talk about, reviewing like the differences between the two. Ultimately, like what is it that we're getting life insurance for? Again, going back to the goals. So for some clients, it makes sense to have just term insurance. Some clients, it makes sense to have just the cash value. And then for a lot of people, it makes sense to even have a combination. But yes, that is something that we also look at and review in part of our planning process as well. And I'm sorry, what was the second question that you had?
For the trust, do you have like a legal component to your firm?
Yeah, so we partner with estate planning attorneys, and they're the ones that put together the will and the trust. So we at our financial planning firm don't do that for our clients, but we talk about it because in my experience of working with clients, I've seen how expensive it can be, and how much of a headache can be. I mean, families, when they're dealing with loss or when they're dealing with different types of large life events or transitions, the last thing that they want to do is try to figure out how everything works. But especially here in California, if I remember, like the probate process again is at least a minimum of 18 months, sometimes 2 years, maybe even longer. And at minimum, you're looking at least 15, 20,000 just in probate. So a lot of that could be avoided. A lot of headache could be avoided by having the proper documents in place. So that is something that we talk about with our clients. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Molly, this is Greg. I have a question. Great presentation, by the way. are happy to have you today, and I hope everyone can really take something from it. This is very practical, and this is life-changing as well. So following up from Gabriella's question, there was a part of your presentation you talked about life insurance, the term portion of it. At the point it gets to maturity, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or whatever, then how can one access the cash portion of that, and kind of what are the steps? You may not have to go through everything, but kind of give us an overview of how that works and what approach someone should take.
Yeah. So, I mean, life insurance in general, I mean, the idea is that when a person is eligible for life insurance, they pay a premium to the insurance company. And upon their passing, then the death benefit, the actual life insurance portion, is what passes to their family income tax free. So it's basically like this large lump sum of cash. And then that way it gives a lot more flexibility for what beneficiaries can do with it thereafter. When it comes to term insurance is just the life insurance. So when you pay your premium, you pay just for the life insurance. So unfortunately, with term insurance, the downside, if you will, is that, let's say you pay your premium for 20 years. If you outlive the 20 years, then you typically don't get your premium back, because again, you're paying your term insurance just for that period of time. There is a type of term insurance where you can get what's called a return on premium. I'm not going to go into like super detail on that, where you get at least what you put in. But it's the other type of insurance where it's like a hybrid life insurance and cash value, where the life insurance is just like we talked about, it's the death benefit to your family. So that's the advantage of that part. And then the second part is the cash value. The cash value is what is what kind of works like an investment. So it's something that has the potential to grow, something that you can access while you're alive. But yeah, typically with term insurance, term insurance is going to be like just the insurance. And so when it comes to figuring out like which one is the best, I mean, I will tell you that term insurance plans are usually going to be significantly lower in cost than cash value insurance plans. So like, for example, I mean, you think about like what the housing prices are here in San Diego now, it's just ridiculous. But let's say like if you have a mortgage, that is 600,000. 600,000 in a term insurance is going to be a lot less than 600,000 in a cash value insurance, because in a cash value insurance, the premium that you're putting in is for the insurance plus your cash value, whereas in a term insurance, it's just the life insurance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask Mahalene, as I was looking at your website, you're very specific on working with women and millennials, and I don't think I've seen another wealth management company that's doing what you're doing. Could you kind of go and take us about the rationale behind that and how you decided, okay, I'm just going to double down on this group of people, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I was born in the 80s, the mid 80s, 1984 here. Just put that on live, but so in the millennial generation, I joke around with my team member Amanda, because she was also born in the 80s as well. But I feel like our generation, or the millennial generation, it's a blend of old school and new school, right? We remember what it was like when. For those of you who remember what it was like when we had dial-up, and when giant phones were the thing, and like now when we talk about technology and how it integrates with our lives, there's so many more at our disposal. And I think part of that too also comes with just the idea of how money was talked about. Money and women, and where women are in society when it comes to business, when it comes to executive and leadership roles, it's changed a lot over the years, but I still think that there's a lot more room for improvement in a lot of different respects. And I also take to, just even in my experiences, my parents were immigrants from the Philippines. And so in their mind, coming here to the United States, they wanted to build wealth. They wanted to create a legacy and build generational wealth. But a lot of it was just saving, not really investing or actual strategies. And so when I think about my parents, there's like a very traditional way, if you will, of how financial planning was done. And now when we think about, again, millennial generation and even younger generations from here, the idea of money and building wealth, like I said, is not just about the dollar amount. It's about what is the impact that we have in our communities and the world once we leave, or even now, what can we do now? The way that we invest our money, the way that where we spend our money, the small businesses that we support, the companies that we invest in, it makes a difference. And so I think in working with a lot of the millennial women, and especially for millennial women investors of color, times change, and it's the old traditional Wall Street school of thought of how financial planning should be. It's not going to work for women and for women of color. So that's, one of the main reasons why that I left my old firm, was to be able to create the vision and even look at those have started that type of vision before me, and are, successful in what they do. So I'm just, and I think I might have shared this before too, but part of the other reason in specifically for, millennial generation as well, is that in the passion of financial literacy and the idea of making impact, is bringing financial literacy and education to the public schools. So again, really minimizing, hopefully minimizing the disparity and the wealth gap between communities of color and not. And I really think that just the millennial generation has a very good blend of what it was like before and like what could be and what is now.
Interesting. I also wanted to ask, what's next for Vista Del Mar? What are you working on? Any initiatives, events that we should be aware of? I know you have your blog going on, and you have your own mastermind as well. So just if you wanted to share a little bit about what you guys are working on right now, would be great.
Yeah, so we're actually working on lots of new things. It's something that I can't announce just yet, but we will definitely announce it very soon. And one of the other areas that we're expanding on is our reach on financial literacy. So really being able to create more of the platform, the curriculum, and doing a lot more partnerships where we can move forward with bringing financial literacy to the schools. So it's a very big undertaking, but I mean, it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And we have a lot of movement going on there for next year. But in terms of other events that are going on for the rest of the year, we don't have anything just because the holidays are coming up. But again, for those of you that have registered, we'll send all of our social media info as well, so you can stay up to date on what's going on with us.
Awesome. Any other questions from the group?
Mahalene, do you advise your clients on investing in crypto or having that as part of their portfolio? And if you do, like, what percentage do you recommend?
So in our platforms, I've talked about crypto with clients. I don't advise. Well, I'm sorry. I should take a step back. So in our firm, we don't handle actual advising or management of cryptocurrency. And part of it is just with the way that compliance is set up on our end. I don't know if most financial firms have crypto as part of their actual investment platform, but when it comes to cryptocurrency, one of the big things that I would say and that I've talked to clients about is understanding your risk and your time horizon. So when I talked about investing is also very strategic. And unfortunately, when it comes to money can be very emotional. And so when there's something like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, NTFs, meme stocks, a lot of these kind of newer things that are coming out, the upside of social media is that it hypes it up, and so it gives people the opportunity to invest in something new and to create like more of a diversified portfolio on top of what they might already have. The downside, though, is that because social media hypes it up, people might get into it without understanding how it works and how it works into their plan. So first and foremost, I would say get the foundation of a financial plan in place first, like your OS fund. And, if you have a 401k and your employer matches, like make sure you do that. Make sure you understand your goals and your time horizon. Then the next thing you want to talk about is your risk. I mean, when you talk cryptocurrency, even though it's been around for quite some time, is still pretty volatile when it compared to, let's say, like mutual funds or like a composite of stocks or bonds in a portfolio. So a person who invests in cryptocurrency needs to be able to withstand higher than average fluctuations and potential losses in that. And so percentage wise, I mean, that really depends. I mean, not to be vague about it, but I think it just really depends because, again, when it comes to all different parts of the financial plan, everything that I talked about, I think is really important as the foundation. And so cryptocurrency and other alternative investments are great complements to build upon the foundation.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else have a question, but I do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about savings account earlier. And I know there are limits to how much someone can invest in other accounts like a mutual fund and IRA. What are some other avenues where instead of putting the money into a CD or a money market fund now, which really doesn't pay any dividend that's worthwhile, you might as well leave in your saving accounts. What do you recommend to someone who may want to diversify if they have excess of whatever amount they think they should have in their savings account to earn a decent return?
Yeah. Again, it'll go back to my answer of it depends. I mean, it depends on, again, your goals, your time horizon. Is this money something that you plan on using for retirement? Is this something that you plan on using before retirement, let's say to buy a car, maybe to purchase an investment home? Is it something just to be able to, not just, but something to have as like maybe a buffer? So like retirement accounts, for example, many of them you can't access until after 59 and a half to not trigger any early withdrawal penalties from the IRS. So maybe let's say if you're somebody that wants to retire earlier and start withdrawing from something before 59 and a half. So I think a lot of it just depends on your goals, but that is a conversation too that I have with clients is that, okay, if we look at your savings or your emergency fund, you have a solid amount in there and you're even replenishing it or building it with monthly savings contributions, then anything above and beyond that, I'd go through different areas of, again, like where are you at with retirement? How are you doing with taxes? What's important to you? So it kind of goes back to like, what are you investing in? What are you saving for? So if in understanding that goal, then we can figure out where the best investment vehicles or savings vehicles would be to be able to get there.
Got it.
I just thought of a question, Mahalene, and how do you work with business owners? Is this all consumer based, or are you just looking at their personal finances, or is there your business finances too?
Yeah, so we also have a platform available where we do work with small business owners, and part of that is basically a combination of personal and business. So part of the conversation we have are knowing what the business structure is. So for business planning, we work very closely with their tax advisor or CPA, as well as a business lawyer, just to make sure like the structure of their their small business is set up in the right way. But what I look at for small business owners specifically are means of, okay, like again, do you have the right types of insurances? What's the idea when it comes to selling your business or like your succession plan? Small business owners, I mean, you are on your own when it comes to retirement. You don't have, a 401k sponsored by an employer because you are your own employer. So like what types of retirement accounts do you have in place to save for retirement and also to help save on taxes? Yeah, I mean, a lot of the similar questions and similar strategies we use for personal finances translates very well into business. And so in working with small business owners, just again, like depending on where they're at, how their business is structured, how many employees they have, we take a look at planning strategies in all those different areas to make sure that it aligns with our goals as well.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad I asked that question. I've been wondering that. Any other questions from the group? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I definitely want to say thank you so much, Mahalene. Like you've literally been here from the beginning, like the events, coming out, supporting, and always a helpful hand and always on standby if we ever need a speaker. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I know your schedule is super busy. So so in terms of your office, you're located in Del Mar, right? And do you have an office? Are you meeting with clients in person right now, or is it?
So we're actually located in Sereno Valley. I know that the name sounds it's very deceiving, but we're actually and as of right now, everything is done virtually. I mean, I do have a physical office where clients could come in if they feel more comfortable. But yeah, most everything is done via Zoom, just, I think a lot more convenient for people. And especially when it comes to just the preparation and doing things ahead of time to make our meetings efficient, we've really embraced more of the virtual platform.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So you got an email from me. I wanted to just learn a little bit more from you.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that. All right, guys, so that wraps up the presentation piece. We're going to have 2 additional events coming up in person now. So November 17th, we have a happy hour event to be determined on the venue. It might be at Breakpoint. And then December 15th, we're having a holiday mixer in person. So stay tuned for those events and you'll get the details. And also you could follow us, or you could visit the website empowermentmastermind.org. It'll redirect you to the link tree. Feel free to RSVP there. You have the videos. All these YouTube live stream sessions are on the YouTube page. So feel free to go back and listen to some of these topics, and I will send this video out in an email so that you have it there in real time. Mahalene will follow up with you about the checklist that she mentioned, or if you want to schedule some time with her. But that's all I have in terms of announcements. So I'll officially, end the session, but just wanted to say, did anybody want to say any last words before we jump off? Anybody new here?
No, just wanted to say thanks to Mahalene. That was really great. Thanks for taking the time out to do this.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Yeah, I think you simplified it the best compared to other presentations that I've been involved in terms of this topic. It's a huge topic, so I think you hit all the good points. Awesome. All right, guys. Go ahead, Mahalene.
Oh, just say thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. All right, cool. So I'm gonna log us out, and I'll see you guys in person November 17th. It's gonna be at 6 p.m. See you, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.